was around like when I was 17 or 18. I bought my first digital camera, and it was a Canon. Made the right decision, apparently. And then I started off by shooting like my friends' portraits and whatnot, and I learned my composition from a digital camera. I didn't mess with lighting or shutter speed or, aperture or anything until I got DSLR, and that was when I started doing wedding photography.
Well, a long time ago when I got my first camera, at that time point and shoots were rather inexpensive, so that's what I went with. And I just kind of had this natural ability to take pictures of landscape art, to see the lighting when light hits it right, and look for depth. That's typically when you have a landscape photo, it involves a lot of different levels. So by seeing that, I would take it, and then everyone's like, wow, that's great. But I was really limited because I was just using a point and shoot camera. There's only so much you can do with that. And so eventually I just started taking pictures of friends and family and got better. And as I continued my efforts, they started noticing what I was doing. It wasn't just a regular shot. And so after doing that for a while, people started saying, you really need to start a business.
I got introduced to wedding photography through my friend Amy. She knew that I was always shooting, random parties and random friends and just whatever. And I started doing that, and that's where I learned technical aspect of photography. And your span is very limited. You have an hour for a ceremony, and you have to have everything done within that hour. And it's very demanding. You have a day to get all these photos and what these people want. But still, I've learned to do that and then still be artistic with it, still have my style come through as far as a photojournalistic styling, you know what I mean? I show up, people don't really know I'm there, I just kind of shoot, and then when people get the photos, they're like, oh, you got that? And I'm like, yeah, you didn't realize I was there, and it's still shot in my skill, you know what I mean? And now I'm getting to the point where I want to be hired more in my vision and and my portfolio rather than a cheap wedding photographer,
I stepped into the world of business, and I created a company called Carlson Photography. And a friend of mine, a jewelry artisan, asked me if I can photograph some of her jewelry. Well, I had no idea that the two of the most difficult things that you can ever photograph is jewelry and food. The reason why jewelry is so difficult to shoot is because it's highly reflective. So if you have a piece that's sterling silver, and of course the first piece she gave me was complete sterling silver, all these angles, so it just picked up reflection everywhere. So did some research, learned some techniques, and all of a sudden I realized I was doing great as a macro jewelry photographer. And I printed some of her stuff up, and then all these other jewelry artists got interested, and I built a website for her, and it's one of my best work ever that I've done for her. And she talked to me about getting my stuff in a gallery, and I said, well, obviously I can't put her jewelry images there, so my mom has a beautiful garden, and I pulled some of her flowers because I realized that people like floral images, and so I applied my macro photography to those and ended up finding a good way to put them on canvas instead of just a standard print. By putting them on canvas, it takes you up another level.
I shoot for this magazine called Angelica magazine, and it's a literary magazine. And pretty much what they do is they give me a story, and I read a short story, and then from there, I get images when I read the story in my head, and that's my launching point are those images, and I go from there. I do cover art also. I did a cover art for my friend's record, Grown Ups, and it was actually on this table, and I just pretty much just gathered a bunch of junk from around the house, obviously, and just took a picture of that. I guess I'm more of a film photographer, although I do mess with digital, but lately it's gone back to film. I don't know the exact genre of photography that I am because I never went to school for it, or I never took training, you know what I mean? Never took anything any classes or anything. Everything was self-taught. I get the most inspiration from my surroundings, I guess, and like not so much. I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say I'm not inspired by other artists, but I gather a lot of my inspiration from just driving, walking, like everyday normal stuff, like anything like that you drive by, like like you might see like a paper bag on the side of the road, or like you see a tree, or you see this, and like that's where I get my inspiration from. But as far as artists, I mean, I feel like Dali was probably the most important artist ever, and so like obviously I get a lot of inspiration from Dali, like the way he was so surreal, and like he gathered all these random visions and put them all together into one, and it was amazing.